Hi, I'm Stuart Wright, and in this video I'm going to show you a number of different ways to play the F chord. Now, F chords can be a challenge because we don't have an open F string, so we don't have any obvious, easy, open F chord shapes to play. But perhaps the best place to start is to take your simple D major shape here, and then move it up 3 frets to here. And that gives us a second inversion F major triad. And I'm using my first finger on the 5th fret of the G string, my third finger on the 6th fret of the B string, and the second finger on the 5th fret of the E string. That's a great shape. The most important thing to remember there is that the root note F is in the middle of the chord on the B string. So you can move that shape up and down the neck for different keys. It's a cool shape. The only problem is it can sound a little bit thin for certain genres. It's great for pop and soul, but not so great for things where you need a heavier sound. So next, we're going to move down to this shape here, a simple F major triad, played on the D, G, and B strings. So I've got my third finger on the 3rd fret of the D string, my second finger on the 2nd fret of the G, and my first finger on the 1st fret of the B string. And that chord just sounds a little bit fuller than the previous chord shape on the G, B, and E strings. You can also try adding in the open A string against it. That gives you the third of the chord in the bass, a first inversion F major triad, but it sounds a little bit too much like an A minor chord. When you're playing that shape, you'll probably find the first finger just naturally mutes the open E string. But the next thing we can try is to flatten the first finger down on the B and the E strings at the 1st fret, what's called a partial bar, and just add that to that chord shape. So now we have the F major triad, but we have an F on the root here, and at the top of the chord as well. So that's 3rd finger on the D string, 2nd on the G, and that partial bar 1st finger on the B and E strings. One of the main challenges there is keeping that partial bar clean on the B and the E strings, that first finger. So try experimenting with the fretting hand thumb, moving it down and up over the top of the neck to find that place where it feels more comfortable to keep that first finger in place. Next, we're going to make that shape sound fuller, and we're going to start getting close to the full F major bar chord. We're going to go from here to here. So this time we've added in the 3rd fret of the A string, that's the 5th of the chord, the C, and we've taken that shape we just had and placed it against that low C note. So the fingering there is 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, 4th finger on the 3rd fret of the D string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G, and that 1st finger partial bar. And again, for this one, really experiment with where that thumb is. Some players hook the thumb over the top all the time, and they find that helps them with the bar. Others put it down on the back of the neck. And you can also view that chord as being an open E chord shape, just moved up 1 fret, and then with the partial bar added on top. The next chord is going to be the full F major bar chord shape. This one is the challenge if you're starting out, and I've made a full video on this, which you'll find on the Guitar World site. But let's see how we get there. We're going to start off with an open E major chord shape. We're going to take that shape and just move it up 1 fret. And then we can apply that bar behind at the 1st fret. The challenge with that chord is making everything sound clean. And one of the best tips I can give here is to really work by rolling the 1st finger, the bar. You don't have to be flat on the finger. If you actually angle onto the side of the finger, you get more of the bone, which then helps with actually keeping those 1st fret notes in place. If that's a real challenge, try working with that chord shape higher up the frets where the tension is lower, like a C chord at fret 8 or a D at fret 10. You can also take an open A major chord shape, this one down here, and move that higher up the fret to create a bar chord. And for an F, we'll do that by moving these three fingers, fingers 2, 3 and 4, up to fret 10 of the D, G and B, and then we'll apply a bar at fret 8. Now, that's quite a tricky shape to begin with because we're trying to get that bar, that first finger bar, all the way across fret 8 from the 5th string down to the high E string, and then we'll try and sound the high E string as well at fret 8. And some people will actually put that bar all across the strings and they'll play the low E string as well. But that can sound a little bit too muddy sometimes, so most people are going to play from the root note F, fret 8 of the A string, and then strum down. But if that's a challenge, don't worry too much about the high E string to begin with. There's another shape we can try here. We're going to keep the bar in place, but this time the 3rd finger is going to fret down on the 10th fret of the D, G and B strings. Now most people when they're playing this shape won't worry about playing the high E string. It's quite a challenge to get that 3rd finger right in place so you're not muting the high E string. And another thing to watch out for is if that 3rd finger flattens down onto the 10th fret of the E string as well, you'll get an F major 6 chord, which is a bit of a different sound. So initially, try just keeping that finger fretting the D, G and B strings, and don't worry too much about the high E to begin with. Many players will avoid bar chords either because of the way they feel or because of the way they sound. So let's have a look at some different chords which have more colour and more character, and the first one we're going to play is an F major 7 down here at frets 3, 2 and 1. So this one can often work as a substitute for an F major chord if it's played as the 1 chord or as the 4 chord. It's got a softer sound which makes it great for everything from soul through to indie, pop and some rock contexts as well. So to play that one, I've got the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the D string, the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, and the 1st finger on the 1st fret of the B string, but I've got to make sure that high E string is open. So when you're practicing that one, make sure you arpeggiate it as well as strum it so you can really hear if that 1st finger is accidentally muting or if the string is open. We can also play an F major 7 bar chord up here at the 8th fret. So that's an index finger bar across the 8th fret. Some players will fret all the strings. I generally fret from the A string down to the E string. So again, always make sure you arpeggiate these chords so you can hear that every note is sounding in the chord shape. Finally, we're going to look at an F7 chord way down here at the 1st fret. This one's quite a challenge. We've got the 1st finger bar across the 1st fret, and then we've got this really big stretch between these 3 fingers. So that's the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, and then we've got the 4th finger on the 4th fret of the B string. That one is a challenge. It's harder than the standard F major bar chord. And the main challenge there is to get everything sounding cleanly. So really make sure you're right on the fingertips for those 3 fingers and the bar is strong. And again, maybe angled a little bit further back onto the side of the finger. It's a very big, full sounding chord. Again, it's good for certain things where you don't have to use too much distortion. It might work in funk and soul and pop, but if you've got too much of an overdrive sound, it can sound a bit muddy. But it's useful because it's a movable shape. When you've learned it there, move it up 2 frets and it becomes a G7 and so on up and down the neck. Thanks for watching everybody. I hope you found that one useful. Don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe to Guitar World, and I'll see you again for the next one. Take care.